This group of resources under industry information are where you're going to find industry reports for various industries. A lot of mostly focused on the United States, but we do have some international content depending on the database. The three I picked here are IBISWorld, Marketline, and IBISWorld Complete. Now, the stuff that you're going to find in IBISWorld, it's mostly U.S. industry reports, but we do have some Chinese industry as well as global industry reports. Marketline is much more global in its focus, so you can find industry reports from a lot of different countries and industries inside of Marketline. And then ABI Inform Complete, the industry reports that we have access to there are again mostly US focused. Welcome to IBISWorld. So this is a database of industry reports, and that's it. It's a very specialized resource. It just finds industry reports. We have access to industry reports, all the United States ones, some global ones, and some I think related to China, but mostly U.S. industry reports. So an industry report, if you're not familiar, is much like it sounds. It is a report on an industry. So it's put together by an analyst or analysts, and they're going to tell you all sorts of things about a particular industry, like who the major companies are in that industry, what are the success factors to compete in that industry, where in the life cycle is that industry. You're going to get some data like statistics and ratio type data, which we can look at. They're very, very useful reports. They tend to be quite in-depth, anywhere from 50 to 120 pages long, depending on the industry that's being covered. And it's fairly straightforward to search. So you're going to type something into this box, obviously, that's why it's there. You can do so by typing in, keywords like you would when you search the internet or whatnot. Or if you have a code, like a NAICS code, which is something you may have learned about, you can put in the code for the industry to get it, or even type in a company name. So if you know a company that competes in that industry, you can just try typing that in. So I don't know, for instance, let's say I was interested in studying coffee shops. So I could type in, coffee, and I could get, I get a result there like coffee and snack shops. But alternatively, I know Starbucks is maybe the major player. So I type in Starbucks, and I'm going to get similar sort of results. But if I hit search and actually execute the search, it's going to bring us a list of results. And so here I've done Starbucks, and I'm going to get sort of all sorts of different reports related to Starbucks. A lot of these are probably going to make sense. Retail market for coffee, sure. Coffee store franchises, definitely. Accommodation and food service, sure. Coffee and snack shops, yep. And as we go down, some of these are going to be weird, but for some reason or another, they fit with Starbucks. I'm not sure why telecommunications is there, but I think if we go down further, we'll see independent label music. That's because Starbucks has a music label that they run. Anyway, so just typing in a major company in a particular industry, I get all the sort of the related industry reports. And that's actually kind of important. A lot of times you probably don't want to settle on just one report, because many companies compete in multiple industries, or some of these reports might be sort of more focused or more broad, and you probably want to get all of them. When I do a business research, I always say it's best to kind of collect all the good information that I can, and then sort of read through that and pick out the stuff that I actually need. So when I'm in that gathering phase, I'm going to try to gather anything that I think might be useful and whatnot. But let's take a look at one of the reports. So let's just go to the coffee and snack shops report. Give that a second to load. And so here's what a typical report in IBISWorld is going to look like. The main content that you can view is going to be over here on the right-hand side. Down the left-hand side is just a navigation menu that's going to point you to all the various sections contained inside of that report. So we're even getting a COVID warning, just another reminder of those strange times that we find ourselves in. But again, you can view the content of the report here, but then quickly navigate to things over here. We can even search inside of the report, which is also nice. But if I expand any of these sections, I can see things like key trends. I can get a SWOT analysis of the industry, which could be really nice. Let's take a look at that. Something you'll notice about these reports is they tend to make heavy use of like graphics or infographic type things. They're trying to make the industry as understandable as possible. You don't need to necessarily be an expert to read and understand these reports, which is nice. Key trends, and these are just sort of like the summary sections. If we get further down, into like some of these more beefy sections, we can go to like competitive landscape. We're going to see market share, key success factors. Maybe that's something I'm interested in. So I'm going to bring that up and take a look. And you see it's a little bit more, maybe a little bit more in depth, maybe. I really like this section on cost structure benchmarks. So it's showing me, where does all my revenue go if I'm a company in this industry or specifically in this sector. So really useful and interesting stuff. On the left-hand side, we can also see who the major companies are in that particular industry if we want to. So we're going to go take a look at that. And, I know I'm going through this quickly. My intention is just I want you to get some experience to see like what it is and what kind of information you can kind of expect to find. But I really want you to get in there and browse through these reports and see what they have to offer. So let's see. Our major player, Starbucks, is the biggest one. Do they list any others even? Yeah, they have some other companies, but the major one, of course, is Starbucks, Dunkin', and so on and so forth. The one thing I do want to point out is this key statistics section. And I want to bring this up because this is one of the only places that we get industry data like this in an electronic format. And so IBISWorld is where you can come to get industry data. Some nice things about how they present this data. They're going to give you, in this case, it looks like the last 22 years, or 18 years, sorry, doing my math incorrectly. But anyway, so it gives us past performance. It gives us the last, like the current year. And then it does give projections out for 5 years. So we can see how the industry is expected to perform in the next 5 years. And then you can see that also expressed in terms of annual change instead of just raw numbers. And then they also do some ratios analysis down here. A couple more things. If you just want to download the report, like find the report and download it, that's what I would suggest doing. There's this little download link right here. It's going to allow you to download it as a PDF or Word document. Excel too, but I don't know why you'd want that. And then any of the tables and things that you find inside of the report should also be downloadable. And if I click on this, it didn't give me the option, but you'll note it did download it as a spreadsheet. So any of the things that are expressed in tables like this are generally downloadable as spreadsheets. But I highly encourage you to just find reports and download them as PDFs. That makes it really easy to share that with like your teams and things like that, so that everybody, if you're working in groups, everyone has access to those reports. Okay, so that's IBIS, a quick rundown of IBISWorld. Again, it's really good for industry reports, in-depth reports on U.S. industries, some global industries, some Chinese ones, but mostly U.S. focused, at least in terms of what we have access to. So this is ABI Inform, and unlike some of the other resources like IBISWorld or Marketline, which are actual sort of business resources, ABI Inform is more of an academic resource. It's essentially a database that has a collection of just business-related content, a pretty big one. So this is the main database that I would come to find, scholarly and professional articles in the business field. I can come here and find news and sort of current events information, and it also has access to a lot of sort of specialized reports, which is what we're going to look at now. Sometimes those reports, though, can be kind of difficult to tease out. So I'm going to show you some tips on specifically how to find some industry reports inside of ABI Inform. And how we do that is in this first box, I would type in some keywords to try to get to my industry. So if I was still continuing to research, Starbucks, then I would just type in coffee or coffee shops or something along those lines. I'm just going to stick to coffee, stay relatively broad at this point. And then in this next line, see, I know that the industry reports in here are published by a company called First Research. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add in First Research as a term, and I put that in quotation marks. Can anybody tell me why? What's that? Yep. They, yeah, you put things in quotation marks to find phrases, right? Exact phrases. So had I just typed in First Research without the quotation marks, this database would actually search for those words independently of one another. So it would look for the word first, it would look for the word research. So it would find things that say First Research, but it would also just find things that, maybe say first in one paragraph and research in another paragraph, something along those lines. So by putting quotation marks, I'm saying find this exact phrase. And I can take this a step further by actually specifying I want to find this phrase First Research, not anywhere in the article, but specifically in the publication title, which is going to be right here. So what my search is doing is I'm looking for the word coffee anywhere in the record for the article, and including the article itself, and the phrase First Research, but specifically in the publication title. So what I should get in my results then is a bunch of reports from First Research that should be about coffee or have something to do with coffee. So let's do a search and see what we get. Okay. Yep, this is what I would expect to find. So you see that there's a coffee shop's industry report. They update them quarterly. So this one currently is from 2018, but I can browse through and try to find a more current one. So here's one from 2020, just last month. And you'll see, so this is the title of the report, and then below that we get the actual name of the the author, in this case, First Search Industry Profiles, and that's what we're looking for. So I'm just going to click this to open it up. We'll get access to a PDF version of it. They're not nearly as in-depth as IBISWorld industry reports, but this one's around 20 pages, 19 pages. And if we scroll through, you'll see a lot of the same kinds of information that we would find in an IBISWorld report, but it's going to be different because it's put together by a different analyst. And that's important for us to consider because we want to gather as much good information as we possibly can, and taking into account other people's opinions. It may be that different analysts agree on the current state of the industry, or they may disagree, and they may have different reasons for that. And as a business student collecting this kind of research, it's on you to make a decision about which analyst do you believe in and why. Anyway, we can scroll through to just see some of these sections. I did want to point out, some things that are kind of unique to these reports. It's this, they have a section called Insights. So it actually kind of gives us a perspective on the industry based on your role in the company. So if you're a CEO, CFO, CIO, so on and so forth, you get different sort of perspectives. And then at the end of the report, there's usually some statistics, but it's not as much as you would expect to find in an IBISWorld report, but it is available there as well. But you can if you have a PDF of this, you can use the download PDF button in the upper right hand side there to grab a PDF of that, and then you have a copy that you can then share with your teammates or just keep in your Google Drive or something along those lines. But just to refresh, let's go back to the search really quick just so we can see how to find these specific reports. We're just going to type in some keywords related to our industry in this first box. In the second box is where we want to have this First Research in quotation marks and limit that to the publication title so that we're just finding those First Research reports. Because otherwise, it can be hard to, like I said, to tease out those actual reports. So this is just a quicker, more efficient way of finding those inside of ABI Inform. So this is Marketline. This is another business research tool as opposed to like an academic one. And Marketline is a resource that contains just a lot of reports, or what they call profiles. So it has industry profiles, it has company profiles. In fact, it's one of the best places we have for finding information on a particular company. And it has like pestle reports on particular countries, all sorts of different information. It's really, really a useful tool. But for finding industry reports specifically, how we're going to use it is, we're going to type in some keywords and then find our industry reports. And we'll talk about that a bit in a second, specifically how we do that. But I wanted to note that the industry reports that we find in Marketline are fairly broad. So if I were studying like Mexican restaurants, I could find that in IBISWorld, and I might be able to find that in another resource like ABI-Inform. But inside of Marketline, they're not going to have something that specific. They might have an industry report for restaurants in general, but not specifically Mexican restaurants. So I hope that makes sense. So their reports tend to be much more broad. And we'll see that actually in a second when I find one. The other thing about industry reports in IBISWorld, in Marketline, is that they are broken down by geography. So they actually do have sort of, if you find it like a particular industry, they should have a report for just about every country or every major country out there. So this is a really good tool if I'm looking for international industry reports. But to search it, I would just try some keywords that you feel are related to your industry. So I'm going to try coffee, and then I'm not going to hit search right away, because what that's going to do is it's going to search for coffee amongst all the different kinds of reports. So it would find companies and countries and all these things. I just specifically want industry reports, or profiles as they call them here. And so to do that, I'm going to go to this drop down, and then I'm going to choose what kind of report or profile I'm interested in. So this first one here, industry profiles, that's what I'm going to search in. So I'm searching for coffee and industry profiles, and I'm going to do a search. And something that should jump out to us as we're sort of looking through this is, I'm not seeing any for coffee specifically, right? So they don't have coffee, but I do notice they have something called hot drinks. They also have one for agricultural products. So I guess it depends on what I mean by coffee. Am I talking about the crop? In that case, maybe agricultural products is what I'm looking for. Or am I talking about actually like serving coffee? So in which case, maybe hot drinks is what I'm looking for. The other thing that might jump out to you is, again, these are very international. And so each one of these industry reports is prefaced by like a geography. So you see we have global, we have regional, like Asian Pacific, and then we have like specific countries, India. So how do I get to what it is I'm actually looking for? Well, you're going to use these limits down the left-hand side. So I would go over here to the geography limit. And then from here, I can, hone in on a specific country. So maybe if I go to North America, I can choose United States. And for some reason, they don't have Mexico. Canada, United States. That's it, North America, I guess, according to Marketline. They probably put it under South America. Anyway, so you can limit to particular geography. So I'm just going to say United States. I'm going to say show results. And I start getting industry reports for United States. So here's the hot drinks United States one. That's probably the one I'm looking to research if I'm interested in like serving coffee drinks, something like an industry that Starbucks competes in. And right away, what I don't like about this is that it just drops you into a PDF of the report, which, it's fine, but I wish there was like a way to navigate to specific sections of the report, like over here on the left-hand side. But there isn't. But I'll show you how you can navigate inside of the report in just a minute here. Over here, you can actually just download the whole report with the download button in the PDF viewer. You can also do it over here on the left-hand side so that you have it. You'll notice this is a 41-page report, so fairly in-depth. Maybe not as in-depth as some of the IBISWorld ones we found. And if I scroll through here, I get this executive summary, that's fine. I should eventually find the table of contents. And so in the table of contents, all of these sections are actually linked so that I can jump to that specific section. So if there's something I'm particularly interested in, so maybe like here, a 5 forces analysis, I'm going to go to that. If you're not familiar with 5 forces, it's something you probably will learn about eventually if you haven't learned about it yet. But I guess I would describe it sort of as like a SWOT analysis, but for an industry. So like you do SWOT analysis of companies. You can do 4 or 5 forces analysis of industries. That'd be one way of describing it. But essentially, it's just identifying that these 5 forces that affect a particular industry, and then it's going to break down those 5 forces and give you, a review. I only mention that because this is one of the only places, in fact, I think it is the only place that you can find a report that explicitly has this 5 forces analysis, at least in terms of the things that we have available through the library. So that's quickly how we can navigate the report using that table of contents. Maybe we'll just scroll really quick to the top just to take another look here at another possible section. Like maybe I'm interested in the particular, so like companies that are competing in this industry. And I do see that it looks like Starbucks is one of those. So I can get a better idea maybe right away. If I'm unsure about the industry report, like I can get a quick idea of what companies it is that they're talking about based on, or I'm sorry, get a better idea of what the industry is about based on the companies that they're identifying as operating in this industry. Anyway, that's the sort of the quick and dirty of a Marketline report. Again, you can download them here on the right hand side or on the left hand side with this PDF icon. And just quick review of that search interface. You want to type in some keywords in this box and then be sure to change this to what it is you're looking for, and in this case that would be industry profiles. But also feel free to kind of explore some of these other categories and just see what kind of reports are available to you in Marketline.